Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Feminine Ascendant Circle. And today I have a very special guest to talk about a very special topic. His name is Soleiman Bolour, and we're very excited to talk about today's topic because it is about Tantra. And we're going to be talking about some of the misconceptions, why it should appeal to a feminine being, what's useful about it, et cetera, et cetera. So, Soleiman, welcome. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you so much, Katie. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Would you like to share a little bit with the audience more about what you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm a sacred sexuality Neo Tantra coach, facilitator. I put on workshops and events. I have two other partners that I put on events with for co-eds. And then I also do my own specifically groups for men on sacred sexuality and Neo Tantra.
Very cool. We need more of this in the world, guys. Very exciting.
Yes.
Very exciting. So I'd love to begin by talking about some of the misconceptions, because I think that, well, I know that because I've had this experience. People look at the word Tantra and the first thing they think of is sex. And I just want to kind of like clear the misconceptions around this, because there's infinitely more to Tantra than sexuality. And so I'd love for you to share like what it's actually about, so that our listeners really have a good understanding of, what it means and how it's useful.
Yeah, absolutely. So the word Tantra, I'm not a student of Tantra per se. I'm more of a student of Neo Tantra and sacred sexuality. And the difference is sort of Tantra in and of itself is more of the connecting yourself to the deity and the worship and the sort of ritualistic of sorts of things. And a very minimal part of it has anything to do with sexuality. And on the other end, which is Neo Tantra and sacred sexuality, that's where a lot of sort of, you could call Osho is one of them, who has sort of taken the work of Tantra and said, we need to embody this work. And how do we get this embodied and turn on our sexuality so we can connect to the divine in a different way? And the divine could be ourself, it could be another, versus in classical Tantra, it's sort of connecting to the deity, calling in the deity within us to turn us on, which has nothing to do necessarily with sexuality.
Yeah, so there's even a different definition of what it means to be turned on, which is really interesting to hear. And so to break this down, just to understand it even deeper, it's about connecting to the divinity in ourselves and others. Is that correct?
Correct. That'd be the sort of loose translation of Tantra.
Yeah.
There's rituals, it's sort of, in some ways, Tantra is a religion. It's a religious belief that came from Hindu, and some people were like, well, we want more than the rituals of what has been taught. And so they sort of explored the bounds of what's possible with Tantra.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And so, in talking about connecting with divinity, I'm really interested to talk about how Tantra and Neo Tantra plays into the divine feminine and divine masculine, right? And this podcast is all about the feminine rising. Now, feminine exists in all of us, men and women, right? And so how does that play into it? And maybe share a little bit too about the balance of that and the masculine. Would love to hear your take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way that we can sort of describe this and feel into it is, in essence, if we focus too much on, let's say, our masculine energy, right? And we become focused and driven and hard pressed at getting something done, then we sort of lose,
people.
right?
It's like so many of us right now.
Right?
We're like, oh man, yeah, it's time to balance that out. Yes, sorry.
Yeah. So, and trying to drive home a goal, and we lose sight of the beauty of life, right? So the flow, which is the feminine, the flow of seeing things happening and, smelling the roses and the beauty and taking a minute. So in essence, it'd be sort of the balance between how much do I push to get something done versus allowing and flowing in life and letting the feminine and masculine sort of play their dance together.
Mm.
And that's why the beauty of Shiva and Shakti. So you hear a lot of people talk about Shiva and Shakti are just energies, right? They're just energies that are within our bodies that we can sort of channel or call forth.
Mm-hmm.
That's when appropriate in any given moment. Yeah. So
And
there may be times where, I might need to call forth my Shiva, where I need to sort of hold ground and stay present and be true to what's happening. And then maybe I need to call forth Shakti and bring my dancing and so it just depends, right? It depends on what we need when we need it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about Shiva and Shakti and these, I guess, the deities or the archetypes. What would you, I guess, identify them as?
Yeah, there can be many. It can be an archetype, it can be a deity, because it is, I mean, Shiva and Shakti are deities. They
Right.
have many different representations of them as well. And then their energies as well, right? They're energies that we can call forth within ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
as to how do we want to show up. Like, for instance, another form of Shakti is Lakshmi, which is she's about abundance and money. And so I have that up on my altar, and I look at her and sort of call forth her channel to, call her in so I can be of abundance in my life.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I never get calls. Apologies, guys. We'll cut that out. But yeah, so that is really interesting. So, and by the way, Lakshmi sounds fascinating and sounds like I would love to have a statue of her on my altar as well. We love abundance.
Yes.
I think, I don't know anyone who doesn't really. But that is so interesting. And so, and I've seen, statues of these, a few of these. Shakti, is she the dancing deity?
So Shakti, she has many representations. She's one of the dancing ones. Lakshmi is considered one of the feminine deities, so there's many of her. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What I really love about that is that, I think when we in our human forms are trying to call forth a new and improved version of ourselves, which so many of us are doing, especially in the personal development space, it can be helpful to look at a model that's already been done, right?
Yeah.
It can be helpful to look at a deity or an archetype or an actual person that has kind of, been a trailblazer in one way or another. And to use that as an inspiration, as kind of like a spark to move forward and say, okay, well, I'm going to focus on the energy of Shakti, and that's really going to help me call forth my energy of expression, or, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really powerful. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we all need models, right? We all need good role models these days to follow, right?
We really, yes, we definitely need more of that. There's a really good book that I've kind of read and studied over the years, and it's called Simply Irresistible, and it actually identifies many different like goddess archetype women, and it was so interesting to see like where I identified with some of these, and then there's some that I was just like, oh no, that's like not me at all,
Yeah.
And to kind of use it and say, oh wow, and to use it as an inspiration also, in a way, I think as a validation too, because it can be hard if you're like trying to be in your feminine leadership in one way or another, and to like remind yourself that you're not alone, right? That if you're blazing a trail in your life, whatever that might be, because we're all leaders in our own way.
Yes.
You might be leading your family, you might be leading in your career or your business or what have you, and to use this as reminders and kind of like, what is the word? Like support, I think can be really, really helpful. So,
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks. I love that we're having this conversation. So, when it comes to, embracing these deities and goddess energies, what do you think is, I guess, from working with your clients and your events and stuff like that, what are some of the most significant shifts in consciousness that you've noticed through the people that you've been working with, or even yourself or your loved ones? Like what's been, I guess, the result of doing this work for folks? Because it's really powerful what you're doing, like this is really powerful work in the world.
Yeah. So, I mean, I sort of would want to more steer this towards the idea of sort of working with sacred sexuality and Neo
Mhm.
Tantra.
Yes,
Because my sort of education, sort of like I said, on the Tantra side isn't that much. I'm not a sort of classical Tantra student, so I can't speak much about it.
for sure.
I
Yeah.
can speak very minimally about sort of the representations of the deities and what they mean,
Mhm.
but my focus is more about the embodiment of things.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So what are the, I guess, the embodiments and the shifts that you've seen there?
Yeah. So I recently had a men's sort of men's 4 week program that I put on, and I think the most profound things that some of the men came out with was I didn't realize that other men have these challenges, or I didn't know that this was okay, or I didn't know that being this way was just part of my path in this moment, or I didn't realize that I could, my body could have uh, orgasm and it's different than ejaculation, or that I can breathe if I just allowed my breath, sound, and movement in my body, that I could feel more. I could feel more sexual energy. I could feel more liveliness. It's just amazing that there's so much that we don't know about ourselves, and that we
Mhm.
think that there's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just been amazing to sort of see these men come out and have better relationships with themselves and their partners.
Hmm. And that's, wow, that is really powerful. So, we're talking about how it can feel like validating. I mean, there's nothing, so many of us feel like there's something wrong with us, right? In one way or another, whether it's sexually or in other areas of life, right? And to kind of come out of that experience, it sounds like so many of those men realized, like, hey, it's not just me, that having that experience, which is always like so profound, and like it's also a reminder of how connected we all are as humans.
Yeah.
And then to also have a deeper relationship with yourself and to be able to create that. I don't know if you're familiar with Kim Anami.
I am not.
Okay. So, and I learned this too about how, deepening experiences with sexuality, you realize like what your body's capable of, right? There's so much that we don't know that we don't even know, right?
Yeah.
And so what you said about men realizing that when they have an orgasm, they don't actually have to ejaculate, that's like a mind blower for so many
Yeah.
people, that alone, right? And so there's so much of that going on, people realizing and getting in touch with themselves and their bodies, and actually deepening relationship with themselves, with their partners, with their lives, really as a result of this. Just from a personal standpoint, from what I've done in my own sexuality work, and it hasn't necessarily been Neo Tantra like what you focus in, but along similar lines, realizing again like what my body's capable of, and deepening that relationship with myself has been so profound in my life, that I really think that there's like no other way to go. Personally, I think that this is such a huge aspect of who we are as people, and to be able to have open conversations about it more than many of us actually do can be very powerful and can be really healing too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely agreed. I
that
liked what
is.
I liked what you said about yourself. I think I get a lot of people like asking me a question. They're like, "Well, I'm not going to come to your workshop because I don't have a partner." And I'm
Oh.
like, let's talk about that, because you're coming to a workshop first of all, any kind of work that you do, it's about self first, right? We got to discover ourselves first. And I always tell people who bring that question up about, I don't have a partner, so I'm not going to come to your workshop. I tell them, well, do you want to find a partner in your current sort of being, who you are now, or do you want to come to these workshops, develop who you are as a person, and find that person that matches you with the new quality and energy of who you are? And I always get the same answer. They're like, well, I want to be the better version of myself. And I'm like, yes, discover who you are first and find that partner that matches you and move through life with that partner. So yeah, it's always about coming to these workshops. And we tell people it's first self, then it's other or another partner, and then it's community.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That is such a metaphor for life too. So
totally.
It really is. Okay. So it just, guys, personal development work, what I have found the most is that, and this may trigger people, but I have to say it. There are so many people that come to personal development work, bless their hearts, really, that are angry at someone else or not pleased with something in their life, and they want to change that external thing or person or circumstance. And what I need to tell you about this is very similar to what Soleiman just said, and that is, it's about you. It's about you first, and changing you changes everything, not the other way around. So if you want that stellar relationship, you want that stellar job, circumstance, career, business, money, situation, whatever it is about yourself first. Just as in what Soleiman's saying with Neo Tantra, you got to come to it and look at you. And then, like you're saying, attracting the next level things into your life, including that person, from a space of like, you've already, done the work. And that is way more powerful, personally, So I just love that. Yes. Definitely an analogy for life. And there is a quote too. Oh my gosh, who says this? I'm always really good at remembering quotes and always terrible at remembering who said it. But it's something along the lines of, stop looking for a partner and start looking to become the type of person you want to attract.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Right? I will find that quote. We'll put it in the verbiage of this podcast because it's important. Nice. Yeah, it really is. But I mean, exactly. It's right along those lines. I mean, we have to do that inner work first. And so along those lines, when we talk about some of the workshops that you've held, what can a individual or a single person, because a lot of my audience is single feminine beings, what can they expect to kind of generally, I know you can't share details, but what can they kind of generally expect to experience?
Yeah, so we recently had a workshop with my two other partners, Jenica Mills and Sita Rose, and we're based out of San Diego. We recently had we called it Sexual Awakening Celebration 2020. And what it was about was releasing the ideas of what you think, sort of your current idea of what sex looks like. So we had a few exercises, we had some meditation, and we had people release what they're letting go of and what they're actually calling in, like what excites them now about their sexuality, like what are they calling forth, like what do they want? Do they want more softness? Do they want more tenderness? Or do they really want some more excitement and rough and maybe they want to explore same-sex relationship. Maybe they want to explore different dynamics. Maybe they want to explore, like, what is it that you're calling forth now in your embodiment? And so we basically had different exercises where they could connect with another partner. And this is all non-sexual. It's more about touching and eye gazing and breathing with partners that are in the class. And yeah, so it's really powerful to connect to one's body, because I think our body holds a lot of answers. And so when we allow ourselves to really relax and connect and breathe, what comes up is our answers. Our answers can be discovered through our body. And whatever we're holding can also be released from our body. So what will generally happen is you release what's in your body, and what happens is you're open to then sort of reveal who you truly are now, per se.
Yeah. So peeling back some layers.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very cool. It's very, very cool. I had actually gone to a Tantra-based dating event in the San Diego area a few months ago, several months ago at this point. And I thought it was wonderful. It was really funny. And I'm so glad that we started this podcast off talking about like, what are the misconceptions about Tantra? I told my mom I was going to a Tantra speed dating event, and she flipped the F out because she thought it was going to be some like kinky orgy thing.
Yeah.
And of course, like worried mama bear was like, what are you doing? And like my crazy hippie daughter. And I was like, no, mom, it's like not like that at all. Trust me, it's really fine. And it was one of the funnest, and yes, I'm going to use that word. I know it's not a word, but it was fun. It was fun as hell. So, there's a lot of what you're talking about with the eye gazing and kind of, body mirror exercise where you do like something that the other person's doing and like mirror them. And it was just really fun and playful. And it felt very safe, physically, at least in my perspective. And I thought it was beautiful. And so I really appreciate what you're creating in the world, because it seems to me like that it's similar. And I think that it's, it's helping a lot of people. So I really appreciate what you're doing. So would you like to take a moment and share any upcoming happenings or offerings?
Yeah. So with me and my co-facilitators, we have pretty much workshops coming out throughout the year. Every couple of months, we have either 2 to 3 hour workshops, day-long workshops, or 7-week series. And then on my end, when it comes to the men's work that I do, sort of group work and individual, I also work individually with men and women. But what I'm really wanting to step into is group work. I feel like group work is so much more powerful than one-on-one work. I think one-on-one work can serve for some people, but group work, to hear that you're not the only one in the group dynamic that's going through what you're going through, and be held and supported by other people.
Yeah.
So I'm putting on a men's it's a 3-month course. It's weekly calls and several workshops throughout the 3 months. And yeah, if I would love to have a call with anybody that's interested, I'll offer a 30-minute free sort of discovery call. Like, what are you up to? Like, what's going on in your life? Like, having a conversation to be able to speak to someone, I think that's the most powerful. Mm-hmm. And we can have a conversation about if, we can work together, if we're fit, or I can direct you to the best place to go find what you're looking for, what you're discovering within yourself. So I'd love to support you, and they can find that info to book a call on my website, ecstaticfreedom.com. And on the bottom, there's a place to book a call with me. There's my calendar, and they can book a call.
That is so awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And can they also find information about your workshops on that website, or will they find it on, I guess we'll get a link to that as well for any workshops. Stay tuned, guys, because they have these like every month or every other month. They're really cool. So if you're in the San Diego area and you're listening to this, like, stay tuned.
Totally.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for joining us today. This was such a fabulous conversation, and I'm a fan of what you're doing in the world. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Katie. And thank you for this podcast. I think the more of these that we have out there and having conversations about, anything to do with life is important. So thanks for the work that you're doing as well.
Absolutely.